So good afternoon, everyone, and greetings of peace and welcome. I'm Nirmala on behalf of the Junkie Foundation for Spirituality in Healthcare. Welcome to this afternoon's Shining Light on Death event, where we'll be exploring living and dying well. So we've received more registration for this event and have exceeded our Zoom participation limit. And as a result, we have had to stream this live for those of you who are not joining us on Zoom, so on our Facebook page. So a special welcome to those who are joining us live on our JF Facebook page. So death is something which is still a topic that many people shy away from. Yet it's a fundamental aspect of reality. How we think about it and how we negotiate death, our own death and that of others. It all has deep implications for all the other dimensions of life. So the Junkie Foundation started this event, Shining Light on Death, to really bring light or shine light on death. And a little bit about the charity. So it's a UK-based charity. We are promoting and integrating spirituality in healthcare. The Junkie Foundation supports healthcare professionals through a value-based dialogue and training. We contribute to general well-being through inspirational resources and events. So we have had our Values in Healthcare Spiritual Approach program, and coming out of that, the Lifting Your Spirit program and the Heart of Well-being. And recently we've compiled and promoted and launched an app called the Happy Dot, where it gives scenarios where you can transform from a negative situation into a happy one. The charity also gives regular financial support to a hospital in Rajasthan, India, the Global Hospital and Research Center based in Mount Abu. And that has pioneered a healthcare model combining modern medical technology with spirituality and complementary medicine. So as I mentioned, the Junkie Foundation started this Shining Light on Death series to shine light on death. And the first event was held in 2018 in London. And since then, events and workshops have been done in London, in Leicester, in Wakefield. But due to the COVID-19, we started offering the online event since July. And Shining Light on Death is an opportunity to concern ourselves with the spiritual aspects of care. The role of acceptance, the role of kindness and humility and compassion, as well as consideration and respect for the sense of the sacred. So these events have had that sort of tone where we are able to integrate people together, to have conversations, to talk about death in a safe space. So far what we've explored on our online events, we've looked at the spiritual dimension to the end of life and how to be in the presence of someone who is nearing the end of their life. We've been addressing these challenges of knowing what to say or what to do in such company. And most of our events where we've had the workshop, we focused on exploring that compassionate presence with the dying. And so we've asked questions like, what do you imagine people who are dying might want or need from friends and relatives, family members, or even healthcare staff? And what would you imagine you would want if you are dying from friends or family members? So one of the things that we have explored is holding the space, and as I mentioned, that compassionate presence. But holding the space may not be enough. So being in that compassionate presence is what is important. So this afternoon, we're going to hear from Chrissie McGinn and Richard Hewitt on living and dying well. And after they have shared on this topic, we will go into a workshop to discuss in small breakout groups, how can I prepare myself for peaceful death? And this is what we'll be exploring later on. So I'd like to introduce Chrissie McGinn and Richard Hewitt, who have their Whisperer Transformation business, and that aim to celebrate the best in everyone. Richie and Chrissy, they've both worked with individuals and groups for more than 30 years. They are friends of the Junkie Foundation and have been with us throughout the Values in Healthcare training. They've also facilitated conscious caring groups in healthcare, personal developments with individuals, and leadership developments in organizations. And they're both trained as interfaith ministers and are spiritual companions. So it's lovely to have you both with us. So without much ado, I'd like to hand over to Chrissy and Richard.
As you said, we've already explored quite a lot of things about how to die well. And in the last workshop, people talked about the sort of death that they would like to have. And what was interesting was people had all sorts of different places where they might like to be when they were dying, or to have different people with them. But what most people said was that regardless of all of that, what they actually wanted was to have a peaceful death. And so we thought that it would be interesting to explore what that actually means in terms of how we live our lives towards preparing ourselves to be able to have a peaceful death. And so that's what our conversation is going to be around this afternoon. Obviously, we've had some thoughts about this, but at the moment we're not quite sure how this particular conversation is going to go. So I hope that you find it interesting and helpful. So I can go over to Richard and say over to you.
So what do we mean by a peaceful death? What do people want from peace? I guess for me, one of the things is it's a stress-free, I suppose. And for me, one of the things I guess about being stress-free is not to rail against death, but to accept that you are dying, and to accept it, and not grudgingly, but to really sort of live into it. And I think a sense of acceptance is important, if you can do it. But that's not to say if you can't accept it that you need to punish yourself and beat yourself up, because we're really talking about compassion. There's that as well.
I think acceptance is quite hard for a lot of people, because if we think about life generally, there are lots of times when things happen to us that we maybe don't like the idea of, or concerned that we won't be able to manage. And initially, as you say, there is bound to be almost this sense of railing against finding ourselves in this place. And those emotions are really important, I think, in terms of people being able to express those. But there's also at what point you're able to then move through the fact that this is where I am. So how can I do something, manage this situation when I find myself in this place? And I think this is where the way that we learn to do that through life helps us learn how we can approach the transition as we are moving on.
So when you say how we do this in life, do you mean things like, I mean, life, I suppose, is made up of lots of small losses all the way through, and how we deal with loss, full stop. How we deal with, I mean, you know, age is about losing stuff. You lose your hearing, you lose your good looks, you know.
You'll get old.
Etc. And how you deal with that. But, I mean, do you not think the part of that is acceptance, accepting the fact somewhere? And you may rail against it and may not want to, and be cross about the fact that you're losing stuff. But that, as you say, for peace, if you like, somewhere along the line, you have to accept it and live into it, I suppose.
I think what you've just said is really important, though, because it isn't just about, it is about lots of little losses. If we think about life, we go through lots of different stages. You know, anything where there's a change, even if it's a change that you really want and you're looking forward to, there will be some losses attached to that. You can't be in the place that you were before, or you can't see the same people, or your hours are different, or whatever. They can be quite small things, but it's how we are able to let go of those small things and allow ourselves to move into the new place. And as I say, it's interesting because even if it's something that you really want, there is also the sense of, yes, but I can't have that anymore. And I think that sometimes that actually stops people taking those steps forward to be able to move into what they would like in their lives.
And then in the normal flow of things, you would say that, you know, if you look at the grief curve, for instance, that these are grief, you know, moments of grief that you're losing something. And there is a phase in that where, yes, you know, you don't accept it and you are angry about it and so on. But eventually you have to integrate it into your life to be able to climb out of that place. So that's the moment of acceptance, I suppose, that this is going to happen to you.
I think it's interesting you use the word climb out of, because I think that if we think about life as a process, often what we are doing is learning from different things that happen to us. And if we think about our lives generally, there are often patterns that we keep seeing recurring. And it's how we deal with whatever that pattern is at this particular moment in our lives that helps us to move on. I see it as a spiral that helps us to learn from that and integrate it and then move on. And it will come around again, but our way of dealing with it will be slightly different because we will have hopefully learned from what's gone before, and in this present moment can deal with it in a different way.
So what you're saying is that if we can use these small losses through our lives to learn how to deal with loss, and so when we come to die, we've somehow practiced to be able to let go or to accept or to letting go, isn't it? It's letting go of stuff. You know.
And that takes courage. But I think all of life takes courage. And as I say, if we see it as a process, maybe of being able to really engage with life and learn from lots of different things that happen to us, we have to take courage to be able to step forward. And sometimes that's quite hard to do because sometimes we're quite fearful of what the next step might be.
Well, I mean, fear, you know, people are frightened of dying, and understandably so. I mean, I think there's two aspects to the fear. One is, if you like, a fear of the process of dying, i.e., is it going to be painful? You know, am I going to lose my marbles first? All the stuff around how's it going to work? How's the actual process going to be of my death? And I don't know what that's going to be like, and that's fearful. But also there is what's going to happen to me afterwards. What am I transitioning into? I don't know. As you said, it's an unknown. We can't know what it is, and you know the fact of unknown, and also the fact of not losing control. You know, I have no control over my death, or very little. Another fear, if you like. So I think there's all sorts of fears.
I think some of that is linked to our beliefs about death.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, if we believe, for instance, in a punishing God, we may be very afraid of dying. I think about my mum.
Yeah.
And when she was dying, and how afraid she was that God was going to punish her, and that was she really a bad person? And I remember you talking to her about it, because she was so fearful at the time, and she wasn't a bad person, but that was the concern, that she would be judged and found wanting. And if that's one of your beliefs, that's very hard to let go, isn't it? And to accept and allow yourself to go with the process. And I think sometimes that's important for us to think about, because although we can say what we need to be able to do is to let go and go with the process and all of that, but sometimes we have fear, and it's, can we have compassion for our fear? Can we have kindness for ourselves when we feel like that?
I also don't think that you can actually sort of tell someone to change their beliefs.
No.
You know, I mean, you can talk to them and ask them questions about how they see God and stuff, and help them develop their own beliefs. Again, something you can do before, perhaps, is work it out before you get there. I mean, there's probably not many 25-year-olds want to think about what it's like, you know, what's going to happen when they die, but it's probably nice if you've worked something out before, so that you don't go to your death fearing it. It's
interesting, though, isn't it? Because we had a conversation with someone earlier in the week, and she is in her 30s, I guess, or early 30s perhaps, and we were talking about doing this, if you remember, and she said that she was afraid, she wasn't sure she would be able to have a conversation like that, and yet she also said that she was curious to be able to explore that. And it's interesting because in our society, death has been so institutionalized that these days, if you're in your 30s, you may not have come across death in any way. And of course, then we have a belief that it is never going to happen to us. And I think in our society, we deny the likelihood, really. We're very good at fooling ourselves, and all the media often is trying to show how we can live forever.
Well, and
that's a favourite song, of course.
Well, absolutely, fine.
Yes.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry, I was thinking about the song. But all the media says that we can.
Sure, and the medical profession is all about, you know, saving lives and things. And, you know, you have this dilemma about, so I'm going to spend a lot of time and a lot of pain in giving you an extra week's life. Is this really worth it, or would you rather die sooner and not have all the pain and the grief of the treatment I'm about to give you? And I think that's a dilemma, and I think doctors and nurses and medical profession have that to worry about. And indeed we have as well. You know, what do I prefer? When do I want you to switch the machine off? When do I want you to let me die? Am I clear about that?
Which I think brings us to people being able to think about this and talk about it all before. It's not just what might happen at the time of death, but it's actually thinking about how I would want to be. What do I think about life generally, and in terms of my abilities to do things or not to do things. And thinking about our friend Craig dying, he lived his life, always wanting to take hold of life and make the most of it. And in his dying process, he did the same. He wanted to be able to use his abilities as much as he could towards the end. And there is something about being able during life to be really aware of how can I, step into life really fully and be really present now, so that I can honour who I truly am.
I mean, he also explored his whole attitude towards it, and he explored the process of dying by writing his poetry.
He did. At the time, he wrote his poetry. And I think there is something about us all thinking about using lots of different ways, actually, to explore what does life mean to me and how I want to live it, and as well as what does this transition as I'm moving to death mean to me. And as you said, he used poetry, but people could paint or draw or write stories, fairy tales,
or even just talk to somebody.
And I guess that's what we would like to encourage people to be able to do, is to explore it in that sort of way, so that it doesn't hold this great fear, where it becomes more familiar.
What you don't want, though, is to talk to someone, or to read your poetry to someone, or whatever, to someone who actually doesn't want you to die, or doesn't want to accept that you are dying, or is grief-stricken and is crying all over you. Because you've then got to try and make them better as well, look after them as well as look after your own process, and, if you like, live fully in your process. You're spending your time looking after someone else, which adds to your stress, and it doesn't lead to a peaceful death, because you wait till they go out of the room and then you die.
And again, there is something here in whether we can talk with our families about dying.
Well, it's quite hard, I don't think, because particularly families
obviously
don't want.
I think it is hard, but I think that the more familiar we are with all of this, the less difficult it would be.
And
I'm not saying we could do it instantly. I'm thinking of our kids who really don't want us to talk about this at all.
Well, they're too young, they're only in their 30s.
but they don't want to think about us not being here, and I think that's part of the thing. There is something as well about what you believe happens after someone has died, in terms of how you then feel able to think about your own death, and about your parents' death, or a member of your family. You can hear it's quite a tricky subject.
Oh, it is.
For people to think about, but there is something about, as we say, shining the light on death, bringing things out into the open, out of the shadows, make it less fearful for people. And it's how we do that, so that people are kind and compassionate towards themselves when they don't feel able to talk about it. And as you say, if someone doesn't want to, how kind and compassionate we can be, and respectful of the fact that that's the place that someone's in at the moment.
I guess you can start by, talking about practicalities, because it's often easier to talk about facts than it is to talk about. So talk about all
the emotions.
Well, I was going to say start with the practical things.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And then move on to the emotions.
That's what I meant. Yes.
And stuff that needs looking at.
Yes, and just at that very level, there is something about us thinking about the practicalities. And as you say, that may help us as individuals to move on to some of the other thoughts that we have around it. But there are lots of practical things to think about. I heard someone say the other day that it's something about really being in life and being with other people in the way that you want to be, so that you have given to anybody anything you want to give them, and said to anybody anything that you want to say, rather than waiting until it's too late.
I mean, that's another thing about tying up loose ends, isn't it? Before you die, I mean, Craig was okay because he knew he was dying, and he had time to sort of see people and if you like,
have those
acknowledge things and you know, apologise and tie up loose ends and things like that.
But you never know; it could all just happen tomorrow.
Know. I mean, it's hard to do. And again, when you were saying earlier about doing it through your life, it's much better to tie the ends up as you go, rather than having them all to do in the last 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
And as well, if you can't do it, it's another thing about letting it go.
And being kind to yourself.
Being kind to yourself, because you can't do it. You know, they're in Australia, you can't sort of go and see them now, sort of thing.
So what would you say our theme is here?
Our theme?
As we're just talking through this, what would you conclude? Too hard.
Too hard, yes.
Too hard. But for me, just thinking about what we're saying, it is about being kind to ourselves and kind to others. And as we go through, keep coming back to that place of, can we do that at the moment so we don't have loose ends?
I think that's...
And loose ends for ourselves, or loose ends with other people, or loose ends with the divine, the universe, whatever.
So the theme is about letting go, being compassionate with yourself if you can't do that, which is another way of letting go, I suppose.
And engaging with life as you go through. As you go through
it. So, as you say, engaging with life as you go through it, so you don't have to do it all at the end.
I think we have to stop there.
Do we? How long have we had?
I think that's our time. So we're going to hand you, yes, we're going to hand you back to Nirmala now.
Right, so thank you very much and welcome back. So that was a very rich discussion you'll have, and it was lovely to share about Craig. I have known Craig also for a long time, being with the Junkie Foundation and part of the Values in Healthcare. So it was really touching to read his poem, and it's on our website. So if you would like to visit the website, you can read some of his poetry and his transition into dying. So what I'd like to share with you is just a couple of slides. So I'm not sure if that's going to be up now. In the meantime, thank you, Chrissie and Richard, for that. So I talked to you about the breakout rooms and how it's going to work out. I just found this this picture really lovely, because a lot of people associate butterflies with and somehow, you know, with death and dying, and it's like it's giving a message. And from my experience when I was abroad and my sister passed away, a little yellow butterfly came, and I really felt it was like her telling me that, you know, she's on her way. So I just thought I'll share that with you. But the other slide, I just want to share this with you about the 7 basic spiritual needs. And we've used this in one of our previous event, and people found it was quite good. So I'll just leave you to just read the dying person, what are some of the basic spiritual needs that are required. So good relationship with God, a clear conscience, hope, meaning, purpose, life concluded with no loose ends, and prepared for transition. And Chrissie and Richard, you mentioned, you know, I think when you shared about Craig and your conversations with him, I think, you know, he was prepared and he knew. So most of these things he had in place, but for a lot of people, you know, these things are not necessarily there, especially if it's untimely death. So this is something, you know, we need to sort of focus on. And I thought I would like, I thought this quotation by the Dalai Lama is quite apt, and I quite like using quotations. So if we can get that next slide up, and I'll share that with you. And it says, we cannot hope to die peacefully if our lives have been full of violence, or if our minds have mostly been agitated by emotions like anger and attachment or fear. So if we wish to die well, we must learn how to live well. Hoping for a peaceful death, we must cultivate peace in our mind and our way of life. And I think you both have covered that and you've mentioned it, but I thought this is, quite appropriate, because our theme is living and dying well. So I just felt that would be appropriate to share. And so how we're going to do this, and we have breakout rooms, and we're going to allocate you to a breakout room for about 30 minutes. The facilitators would introduce themselves and take you through a reflection for you to reflect on the question, and then you would have time to share on the topic. But before we do that, I wanted to ask Chrissy to take us through a transition meditation to set the tone for the workshop. And when we've done these workshops in the past, we've talked about a compassionate presence and being in that space of calm and peace and compassion, so that you're able to give from the core of your being. And we thought we would introduce this meditation now so that people can go into the to the workshop. So Chrissy, if you wouldn't mind taking us through to that meditation. Yes?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Nirmala. As Nirmala said, we're going to go into small breakout groups. And so I want to share a transition meditation that I wrote for Craig. And it was written for him in the light of his own beliefs. So your beliefs may not be exactly the same as his. So I hope that you are happy to just go with this. When we finish, we'll go straight into the breakout rooms, but we'll have 2 minutes silence to just reflect on the question, how can I prepare myself for death? And I'm hoping that this transition meditation will help you to go into that conversation in a quiet and calm way. So with this transition meditation, all that you need to do is, if you're willing, close your eyes, but if not, don't worry, and simply follow my voice. So if you're willing, just close your eyes. We call on our guides, our unseen friends, and our guardian angels to be with us and to surround us with love this afternoon for our transition meditation together. As you settle gently into your body, just become aware of your breathing. The in-breath and the out-breath. The air drifting in and the air drifting out. Gently and peacefully. There is no hurry. You have all the time in the world as we sit here together. And as you sit, you are drawn to a beautiful space inside your body. It may be in your heart or in your tummy. In that space, you know that there is only peace and calm and stillness. You are safe here. You are very safe. You are always safe. This is your own special place where you are always safe and connected to the deepest part of your being. Just feel it. So calm and peaceful, restful and still. For this is a place where sound and shapes have a special meaning for you. This is your own inner sanctuary. Here, you can be your own true self and connect with that mystical and spiritual part of your inner being. The part of you which is always light and free and at peace. For that space is timeless and infinite and full of love, unbounded, infinite love. And that love is for you. That love is you. And that love surrounds you. So you can let go into it and feel it. Experience it. And know that you are safe. In this safe space of love and deep connection, you can surrender. You can surrender any misunderstandings, any judgments, any regrets. Just let them go. You can surrender any concerns that you have. Let them go. You can surrender any fears that you have. Let them go. Allow all these concerns and fears to be transformed. To be transformed with compassion into pure love. Know that you have served your family well, served your friends well, and the world well. Know that you have made a positive difference to the world. Know that you are loved and appreciated. feel this love and appreciation. For now, it is time to let go of any need for action and service to others. This is time now, just for you. Let go and draw closer to the light and love. It is time to just be. Just let yourself rest in love. You are safe. May this peace surround you. May this light shine within you and guide you on your way. May your soul be held in love as you move towards the light. And may you know the deep, deep joy of passing this way. And now we give thanks to our guides, our unseen friends, and our guardian angels for your gentle love surrounding and holding us all this afternoon. And so it is.
So, thank you, Chrissy, for that. So hold that space, be in that space of calm and peace as you enter your workshop. But before we do that, just to say thank you for all those who have joined us on our Facebook page, streaming live. And we hope that you could be with us